You are a slave. Not to a person, not to a system, not to poverty, not to your circumstances. You are a slave to your own feelings. And that right there is the most dangerous prison ever constructed in the history of humanity. Because every other prison has walls you can see. Every other prison has chains you can touch. But the prison of your emotions, it has no visible bars. It has no locks. And yet millions of human beings wake up every single morning, look at their dreams, look at their potential, look at the assignment God placed inside them, and they do not move. Why? Because they do not feel like it. I need you to hear me today. I need you to hear me not with your ears, but with the deepest part of your consciousness. Because what I'm about to tell you has the power to completely dismantle the life you are currently living and rebuild it into something that your emotions would never have permitted you to construct. If you only work when you feel like it, you will always be average. Let that land. If you only pursue your purpose when motivation visits you like a weekend guest, you will die with your assignment still locked inside you. The graveyard is not just full of bodies. The graveyard is full of unwritten books, unbuilt businesses, unspoken sermons, unfinished legacies. And every single one of those dead dreams has a cause of death. And that cause is written in 3 words. I didn't feel like it. It is time, and I mean it is past time, to stop acting like a child. Children operate from feelings. Children cry when things are uncomfortable. Children stop when things become difficult. Children quit when the pain exceeds the pleasure. But you were not designed to be a child forever. You were designed for dominion. You were designed for mastery. You were designed to govern. And governance begins not with the control of a nation, not with the control of a business, not with the control of other people. Governance begins with the control of yourself. Part 1. The king who lost an empire in one moment. I want to tell you a story. Not a fairy tale, not a motivational anecdote. I want to tell you a true account of power, of empire, and of catastrophic, irreversible destruction. All caused not by an invading army, not by economic collapse, not by betrayal from enemies, but by a single uncontrolled emotion. There was once a king, a great king, a king whose name I will not speak right now, because I want you to understand that this king is not a historical relic. This king is you. This king is your neighbor. This king is every human being who has ever been given something magnificent and then watched it crumble in their own hands. This king had built an empire over 30 years. 30 years of sacrifice. 30 years of discipline. 30 years of waking before the sun, of making decisions that cost him comfort, of building alliances, of training his mind, of sharpening his strategy. His army was the most feared in the region. His treasury was overflowing. His name was spoken with reverence in halls he had never even visited. He had everything. And then one afternoon, one of his generals came to him with a report. A minor official in a neighboring province had spoken disrespectfully about the king's family name. It was a small offense, a whisper, an insult that the king's advisors told him to ignore, that his wisest counselors told him would dissolve on its own, that his most trusted general told him was not worth the response. But the king felt something. He felt humiliated. He felt disrespected. He felt a hot surge of anger rise from his chest into his throat. And in that moment, in that singular, burning, emotional moment, he made a decision. He deployed his army, not to defend the border, not to protect his people, not to execute a strategic military objective. He deployed his army to satisfy a feeling, to silence a wound to his pride, to make the feeling of humiliation go away. And while his army marched east toward a minor insult, his real enemies moved west. They had been watching. They had been waiting. They knew that a king who could not control his anger could be manipulated by his anger. And so they manufactured the insult. They planted the disrespect. They engineered the offense specifically to move the king's army away from his most vulnerable territory. The king marched his greatest strength directly into irrelevance because he was governed by a feeling that lasted 45 minutes. He returned from his emotional campaign to find his western cities in flames, his treasury raided, his most loyal generals dead, his 30-year empire dismantled in 72 hours. Not because his army was weak, not because his strategy was flawed, not because God had abandoned him, but because for 45 minutes he let a feeling sit on the throne. And I need you to understand, this is not ancient history. This is your life. This is the argument you had with your business partner that destroyed a 10-year relationship. This is the impulsive resignation letter you submitted because you felt undervalued on a Tuesday afternoon. This is the relationship you sabotaged because fear dressed itself up as anger and you believed every word it said. This is the opportunity you walked away from because discomfort knocked on the door and your feelings told you it was danger. Every time you let a feeling sit on the throne of your mind, you are that king and your empire is burning. Part 2, the anatomy of emotional slavery. Now let me go deeper. Because I am not simply here to tell you that emotions are bad. That would be an incomplete and irresponsible teaching. Emotions are not the enemy. Emotions are data. Emotions are signals. They are the body's reporting system. They tell you that something has occurred, that something has shifted, that your internal environment has registered an event. But here is where the untrained human being makes the fatal error. They do not read the signal. They become the signal. When a pilot flies through turbulence, the instruments in the cockpit register the chaos. The gauges spike. The warning lights activate. The system reports the disturbance with full intensity. But the pilot, a trained, disciplined, purposeful pilot, does not grab the controls and start screaming, does not abandon the cockpit, does not make irrational maneuvers, because the instruments are alarming. The pilot reads the data, assesses the situation, and continues to fly the aircraft through the turbulence toward the destination. You are the pilot. Your emotions are the instruments. And your purpose is the destination. The untrained human being looks at the instruments spiking and concludes that the plane is going down. And so they panic. They react. They make impulsive decisions at 35,000 feet that would only make sense at sea level. And what happens? The very reaction that was meant to save them from the turbulence destroys the aircraft. This is emotional slavery. And the terrifying thing about emotional slavery is that it feels like freedom. It feels like authenticity. It feels like you are being real, being honest, being true to yourself. People will celebrate your emotional outbursts and call it passion. People will applaud your tearful resignation and call it courage. People will validate your impulsive decision and call it following your heart. Following your heart. As if your heart has a map. As if your feelings have studied the terrain. As if the emotion that was born 3 seconds ago has the wisdom to navigate the next 30 years of your life. Dr. Myles Munroe taught something that changed the architecture of my entire thinking. He said, the greatest threat to your future is not your enemy, it is your unmanaged self. Your enemy operates from the outside, but your unmanaged self operates from within. And an enemy within always does more damage than an enemy without, because you cannot build a wall against yourself. Part 3, dominion, mind management, and purpose. Now I need to take you somewhere deeper. I need to take you into the philosophical and spiritual infrastructure of what it means to be a human being. Because you cannot master your emotions until you understand why you have them, what they're designed to do, and who was always meant to be in charge. In the beginning, and I am speaking of origins now, of design, of manufacturer's intent, the human being was given a specific assignment. That assignment was called dominion. Not dominion over other people. Not dominion through force or manipulation, but dominion over the earth. Dominion over the environment. Dominion over the systems and structures of the physical world. But here is what most people never examine. Before you can have dominion over anything outside of you, you must first establish dominion within you. The manufacturer designed the human being with a mind, a conscious, reasoning, purposeful mind. And that mind was designed to govern the body. The mind was designed to receive vision, to process information, to set direction, and to command the physical instrument, the body, the emotions, the impulses toward the execution of purpose. The emotions were designed to serve the mind. The body was designed to execute the mind's commands. The feelings were designed to inform the decision-making process, not to be the decision-making process. But what happened? What happened to the human race is what happens when any system is operated in reverse. When you flip the hierarchy, when you allow the body to command the mind, when you allow the feelings to govern the decisions, when you allow the emotion to sit on the throne that was designed for your purpose, the system breaks. You were never designed to be governed by how you feel. You were designed to govern your feelings. And the moment you flip that sequence, the moment feelings become your master rather than your servant, you have entered into a state of dysfunction so profound, so complete, that it mimics normalcy. Because everyone around you is living the same way. And here is where the concept of purpose becomes absolutely critical. Purpose does not care how you feel. Let me say that again. And I need you to write this on the walls of your mind. Purpose does not care how you feel. The assignment that was placed inside you before you were born, before your parents gave you a name, before the world gave you an identity, before your experiences gave you wounds, that assignment has a delivery date. It has a demand. It has a weight of expectation on it that does not pause for your bad mood. It does not reschedule for your anxiety. It does not grant extensions because you are feeling overwhelmed. Dr. Munroe used to say, the graveyard is the richest place on earth, and he meant it. Not as poetry, not as hyperbole, as fact. Because in that graveyard lies more potential than has ever been expressed on the surface of this planet. There are symphonies buried there that were never composed because the composer felt too depressed to sit at the piano. There are companies buried there that were never launched because the founder felt too afraid to sign the documents. There are children buried there, generations of children, who never received the wisdom that their parent carried because that parent felt too tired, too discouraged, too emotional to do the work. The graveyard is not filled with failures. It is filled with feelings. Feelings that were obeyed. Feelings that were treated as commands. Feelings that were given authority they were never designed to have. And purpose, magnificent, world-altering, history-shaping purpose died quietly inside bodies that had every resource necessary to execute it. Every resource except discipline. Part 4. The architecture of absolute Stoicism. Now, I want to talk to you about something that the world is deeply afraid of. The world is afraid of it because it looks like coldness. It looks like arrogance. It looks like you do not care. And because it looks that way, most people never develop it. Most people stay emotionally reactive for their entire lives because they confuse emotional availability with emotional slavery. I am talking about Stoicism, not the philosophy class version, not the intellectual exercise. I am talking about the weaponized, operational, battle-tested practice of absolute internal stillness in the presence of external chaos. I am talking about the ability to stand in the middle of a storm and feel the wind, register the rain, acknowledge the lightning, and continue walking toward your destination without breaking your stride. This is not the absence of emotion. This is the mastery of emotion. There is a profound difference between a man who feels nothing and a man who feels everything but is governed by nothing he feels. The first man is damaged. The second man is dangerous. I want you to become the second man, the second woman. I want you to become someone so internally anchored, so rooted in purpose and principle and deliberate design, that when life attempts to manipulate your behavior through your emotions, it fails every single time. And how do you build that? How do you construct that level of internal architecture? You begin with a single, non-negotiable decision. And the decision is this: my actions will be governed by my purpose, not by my present emotional state. This sounds simple. It is not simple, because your feelings are loud, they are insistent, they are convincing, they have been your primary decision-making system for decades. And they will not surrender the throne without resistance. When you wake up at 5 in the morning to work on your assignment and your body says, I am tired, your feelings are not lying to you. The tiredness is real. The discomfort is real. But the question is not whether the feeling is real. The question is whether the feeling has the authority to stop you. And your answer, your daily, deliberate, disciplined answer must be no. No. You do not have that authority. You are a feeling. You are temporary. You are a weather pattern. And weather patterns do not cancel construction projects. The builders do not go home when it rains. They put on their rain gear and they continue building, because the deadline does not move for the weather. The architect's vision does not dim because the site is muddy. The structure that is being built does not apologize to the rain for still going up. You must become that kind of builder. Now let me give you the specific architecture of this Stoic mastery, because I am not here to inspire you without equipping you. Inspiration without instruction is entertainment. And your life does not need entertainment, it needs engineering. The first principle is this: observe your emotions as a third party. When anger arrives, do not say, I am angry. That language merges your identity with your emotional state. Instead, say, I notice anger is present. This is not semantics. This is cognitive architecture. The moment you create distance between yourself and your emotion, you reclaim the observer's position. You step back into the pilot's seat. You pick up the instruments and read them correctly instead of becoming the turbulence. The second principle, never make a permanent decision in a temporary emotional state. This alone, if you implement nothing else from this teaching, this alone will save your empire. Because most of the destruction in your life was not caused by your enemies. It was caused by decisions you made while you were angry, afraid, grieving, elated, or desperate. These are all weather patterns. They are all temporary. And temporary states of mind should never have the authority to make permanent choices. Sleep on it, pray on it, walk around a building 3 times before you respond, put the pen down, close the laptop, step away from the conversation, give the emotion time to pass, and then decide. Because on the other side of the emotion, on the other side of the storm, there is clarity, there is wisdom, there is the calm, rational, purpose-driven mind that was designed to govern your life. And that mind will make a completely different decision than the one your emotions were demanding 3 hours ago. The third principle, build systems that do not require your motivation. This is perhaps the most practically dangerous truth I will speak today, because most people are building lives that require them to feel good in order to function. Their workout depends on motivation. Their work depends on inspiration. Their relationships depend on them feeling connected. Their prayer life depends on them feeling spiritual. And so when motivation does not show up, which is most mornings, the entire system collapses. And they lie in bed wondering why they cannot build anything that lasts. Here is the architectural truth. Discipline is the system you build so that your behavior does not depend on your emotional state. A professional athlete does not go to practice because they feel like it. They go to practice because practice is scheduled. Because the schedule is the system. Because the system does not ask how you feel. The system asks where you were at 6 o'clock this morning. You must schedule your purpose. You must systematize your assignment. You must build a life where the default behavior is execution. Not because you feel great, but because execution is the only behavior the system permits. This is what separates the professional from the amateur. The amateur performs when inspired. The professional performs because performance is what professionals do, inspired or uninspired, energized or exhausted, celebrated or ignored. Part 5. The silence of the dangerous ones. I want to tell you something about truly powerful people. Truly powerful people are quiet. Not because they have nothing to say, not because they are weak or passive or disengaged, but because they have learned something that most people never learn. Your reaction is your most valuable currency, and the undisciplined spend it on everything. When chaos erupts around a disciplined person, they go quiet. When provocation arrives, they go still. When criticism attempts to pull them off course, they do not argue, they do not defend, they do not perform their pain for an audience. They go back to work because they understand something profound. Every moment you spend reacting emotionally is a moment you are not building. Every word you spend defending your reputation is a word that your assignment never received. Every unit of emotional energy you invest in responding to provocation is a unit that was stolen from your purpose. The most dangerous human being in any room is not the loudest one. It is not the most emotionally expressive one. It is the one who sits quietly in the corner, feeling everything, reacting to nothing, and building without ceasing. That is the person you should be terrified of. That is the person whose empire never gets dismantled. Because no one can manipulate a person who will not react. No one can steer a person whose steering wheel is not connected to their emotions. No one can sabotage a builder who keeps building through every attempt at distraction. Execute in silence. Let the results make the noise. There is a particular kind of person the world has never been able to stop. History is full of them. They were ridiculed and they continued. They were rejected and they continued. They were abandoned and they continued. They were told they were too young, too old, too poor, too uneducated, too broken, and they continued. What made them unstoppable was not talent. The graveyards are full of talent. What made them unstoppable was not intelligence. The libraries are full of intelligent people who never built anything. What made them unstoppable was not opportunity. Opportunity visits everyone, but most people are too busy managing their feelings to open the door. What made them unstoppable was a decision, a cold, quiet, immovable decision that said, my purpose is bigger than my feelings, my assignment is more important than my comfort. My legacy is more valuable than my mood. And they honored that decision every day in the dark, before anyone was watching, when no one was applauding, when the results were not yet visible, when the feelings were screaming to stop. They continued. Part 6. The final command. I want to close this teaching with something I need you to carry with you, not for a day, not for a week, but for the rest of your life. You are not your feelings. Read that again. Absorb it. Let it restructure every conversation you have ever had with yourself. You are not your feelings. You are a purpose-carrying, assignment-bearing, kingdom-building human being, equipped with a mind designed to govern, a spirit designed to connect with the infinite, and a body designed to execute on earth what was first conceived in eternity. Your feelings are passengers. They ride in the vehicle, they look out the window, they comment on the journey, but they do not drive. They have never driven. They were never designed to drive. You drive. Your purpose drives. Your disciplined, deliberate, mind-governed will drives. And from this moment forward, I am asking you to take the wheel back. Not forcefully, not aggressively, but with the quiet, terrifying certainty of someone who has finally understood what they were built for. Stop waiting to feel ready. Ready is not a feeling. Ready is a decision. Stop waiting to feel motivated. Motivation is not a prerequisite for execution. It is a byproduct of it. You do not feel your way into action, you act your way into feeling. Stop letting temporary discomfort make permanent decisions about your future. That feeling of fear, temporary. That feeling of inadequacy, temporary. That wave of sadness, temporary. That surge of self-doubt, temporary. But the vision inside you, the assignment on your life, the potential that God deposited in you before the foundations of the world, that is not temporary. That is eternal. That is real. That is yours. And it is waiting patiently, persistently, urgently, waiting for you to master yourself enough to deliver it. The king who lost his empire made one mistake. He let a feeling sit on the throne for 45 minutes. And 45 minutes of emotional governance cost him 30 years of discipline building. Do not be that king. Be the king who walks through the provocation, unmoved. Be the leader who reads the intelligence report, sets it aside, and makes the strategic decision from principle, not from pain. Be the builder who feels the rain and keeps building. Be the pilot who reads the instruments and keeps flying. Be the human being you were designed to be before the world taught you to be governed by feelings. Before the wounds taught you to react instead of respond. Before the noise convinced you that your emotions were your identity. Go back to the original design. Mind over emotion, purpose over feelings, discipline over desire, execution over excuses. Every single day, whether you feel magnificent or miserable, whether the world celebrates you or ignores you, whether the results are visible or invisible, you show up, you execute, you build in silence, with certainty, without apology, because your assignment does not require permission to be urgent. It does not require the world's approval to be valid, and it does not require your emotions to cooperate in order to be completed. It only requires you, the disciplined you, the governed you, the purposeful, intentional, emotionally mastered you. That person is unstoppable. The graveyard has taken enough. Not you, not today. Now go, build in silence. Do the work.